Greetings everyone, namaste, nice to see you. I'm talking with you today from my back deck. This is a grape arbor overhead. There's a trickling pond in the background. The sun has set to the west over here, so it's not so blisteringly hot and humid out here, nor is it still smoky as it has been for the last several days. I've been really reflecting on both the circumstances of my life and the climate collapse, and how these two things fit together when it comes to higher levels of yoga teacher training. First is the circumstances of my life. I take a sabbatical every year in August and December, and I'm really committed to that as a part of my own annual renewal, seasonal and annual renewal, so that I can keep bringing the best of what yoga is in me to my yoga students and to all of you in teacher training. Our training school opens up every year in September, and then again in January, March, we open up another section of the training programs. So I've designed a life that has this backyard garden, this sort of sanctuary back here, and that has sanctuary and retreat time built into my annual schedule. And I've done that both because I teach yoga, and because I teach yoga, I'm able to do this. So I'm self-employed, I have my own company, and I'm an employee of that company. I set my own schedule. I do the service work that I long to do. I'm able to do that robustly and generously because I have a simple life. I have a simple structure to my life. And having this sanctuary here in the backyard is also just so precious and renewing. At the same time, that being said, we're watching the climate change. So we just went through another heat wave here in Portland and the Pacific Northwest. And we're watching droughts happen in other places and flooding happening in yet other places. So being aware of the changeability of the climate, there's no question for me that that's going to be integrated into our yoga teacher training courses this year. So at the foundation level of our 200-hour yoga teacher training, we teach people about Ayurvedic yoga, how to have the doshas, the vayus, the koshas included in your perspective on yoga, and how you sequence classes, how you help your students to be in the best possible alignment for themselves with their life and their doshas. Well, nature also has these doshas, and they're out of balance. We're watching that, how we have lived in contemporary dominant culture has shifted the ecology so greatly that we actually, those of us in the dominant culture, of which I'm one of those people, the way that we've been living has influenced the adversity, the rising adversity and the difficulties on the planet, particularly in the global south. And we're not the only ones in the global north. Of course, there's other countries that live as we do. But as we're living in this industrialized, consumeristic society, it's out of alignment with yoga. And so it will be a consideration and a conversation even at the 200-hour level of our teacher training. But specifically at the 300-hour level of teacher training, I want to train you to work with students coming to see you who have the physical, mental, and emotional, psychological, and spiritual questions about living yoga in their life, and doing that while the climate is changing around them. These might be questions that you have, actually. You know, how are you going to just go on teaching yoga the way we have been without mentioning it? In a similar way as last year, we had to talk about, I chose to speak about racism and coronavirus and pandemics and everything happening on the planet becomes a part of our yoga teacher training conversations. So each year that we're going through something in a teacher training program at a global or local level, it's coming into the curriculum as well. So this is a personal and professional commitment from me to my local community, to my regional community, to society, and to the global ecological crisis. So I want to encourage you to join us, to come along for the journey, and to really start looking at how can you recalibrate your life, including that you have enough economic resource, you have enough financial stability to have your life based in yoga, and the way that you come to that financial stability is through your dedication to yoga, right? That it's something that's intertwined in your life. So that's also a part of our training conversation when we come together. Now we do begin with the 4 foundational modules at the 300-hour training. They are mindfulness-based yoga, which is an entire reworking of recalibrating, bathing the nervous system and the mind and the brain in this beautiful process of mindfulness intertwined with the yoga. In fact, the vessel of yoga for the purpose of mindfulness. Then we have our adaptive yoga module, which is how do you really adapt the practice to people's medical sensitivities? I've had several medical sensitivities myself, so I do kind of specialize in helping people to adapt their yoga to their circumstances. And then we have Ayurvedic restorative yoga, which is really looking at the medicine of Ayurveda in the restorative practices to further balance people's internal digestive, endocrine, and immune systems, to give them the best possible mental and spiritual well-being that they can have. And then we have a module on yoga and strength conditioning, which is essential actually as people have adventuresome or athletic lives, or they have a surgery, or they have stress or tension in their body, they have chronic pain. How can we help them with the imbalances that happen musculoskeletally? That's really the first section of the course. Is called Part 1. It has 4 segments, 4 modules. And then in Part 2, we do a deep dive into yoga psychology. And at that level, the yoga psychology course, it interweaves the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, of course the koshas, the chakras, the sattvic qualities of the heart. And it's where we have those conversations about living your yoga in every way and looking at the contemporary dilemmas that we are facing as a species and a society. So that's our 300-hour teacher training course coming up. Of course, you begin with your 200-hour training course. That's also beginning in September this year, but the 300-hour starts in October. And that is the first 300 hours of our International Association of Yoga Therapists, IAYT training, which is 800 hours total. So this next program is 300 hours, the first 300 hours of your 800-hour, and the completion of your 500-hour with the Yoga Alliance. If that's confusing, please look at my website because we talked about it in more details there, and sometimes it's easier to see it written down where you're reading it to better understand it. So I just wanted to share a part of my life here with all of you and to comment on the climate as a part of what we're going to be discussing. A really important imperative for us to be discussing it in yoga teacher trainings coming up here. Just in case you missed the module on the restorative, the module, I just did a webinar, sorry, my train of thought went away. The webinar that I just taught yesterday was on trauma-informed lenses for Ayurveda. So in case you missed that, you can ask us about it, how to get a link to see the recording of that. And then in case you missed the discussion that I did about the hybrid, what I called the online, in-person, hybrid, satellite learning model, that video is on the website too. And that's how we're going to be conducting our 200 and our 300-hour yoga teacher trainings. We're still, navigating the pandemic and wanting to have the structure of the program be suitable for what that is. So let me say good evening to you all, and I hope that you're doing well. May your yoga be strong in your life, and I look forward to hearing from you with any questions that you might have. Okay. Thank you all very much. Namaste.